What's up, guys? I'm Alex.
I'm Jason. We're the Table Monkeys, and we are here with another video. Today, we are going to talk about this little cue that I learned from Earl Wilson this weekend. We were fortunate enough to have him at practice. We had an awesome practice this weekend at Table Monkeys, which we have every Sunday. Earl was there. And if you don't know who Earl Wilson is, you should look him up. But he's a Canadian legend. He's the only person in WAF history to win three gold medals and a silver in 1 year, and he did it twice, which is pretty impressive. He still holds that record, and so yeah, he's a Canadian legend. Devon has some stories about him. He was one of Devon's first big milestones of beating Earl Wilson. Was the first time I think he blew out his elbow because he knew the only way to do it was to fucking get in there and just commit.
It's a good match here. Earl and Devon. Devon coming on top. What a good match. Earl and Devon. Let's pump it up for these two. And the winner.
But anyway, Earl showed us this really cool cue, which we want to go over because it's a great cue for new arm wrestlers. We always talk about good form, and though we do a lot of Kings moving in Toronto, and I started as a Kings mover, and we have a lot of guys that are in the early, beginning of arm wrestling. They find themselves out here all the time, and that's what was happening. One of these guys that we have, Nav Jot is his name, and he has a tendency when things get desperate to let himself open up and end up out here, maybe more like this. He does find himself in this situation, and Earl just couldn't help himself. He could not watch it any longer, and he got on the table with him. And Nav is getting really good, and he's strong in a lot of places. But why it's called the desperation move by some people, and where the Kings move comes from, or not comes from, but happens a lot for newer pullers, is when they just want to stay in a match and they don't want to get pinned, and so you do whatever you can to stay in there. And we teach it, so when people start going there, we go, okay, this is what you should actually be trying to do if you're going to do that, and we teach them the King's move. But anyway,
the issue is that as a new arm wrestler, you should still be primarily focusing on fundamental arm wrestling.
Exactly.
And until you have that down pat, you probably shouldn't veer off into the deep end of arm wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's, elbow inside the body, fist close to your face, everything nice and tight as you go for any type of pin.
Yeah, it's like flop pressing. We wouldn't, if somebody came in and they wanted to just, press and flop press right off the bat, we would coach them away from that in the beginning. And like Alex said, teach them fundamentals so that as they learn the game, the flop will be there when they want it. And the guys that are willing to throw their whole arm out there and lie on that joint, that's going to be there for them as well. So learn the fundamentals, right? So Earl's cue, being in the gym here, he saw the lacrosse ball and he was like, hey, do this. So basically what I'll be Nav is pulling, and he's ending up like this, and he's trying to finish, and he's opening up like that. And the first thing Earl did was he said he took the lacrosse ball and he had him hold it between his lat and his tricep like this, and right away you can feel if I try to move on the table and keep that there, whatever move I do, I'm in really good form.
And what does this force you to do? It forces you to activate your lat because you're holding your elbow close to your side.
Yeah.
And that's what you're losing when it dips away from you, and then subsequently you're losing power.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get that arm in tight, not only are you in better position, but because you're in better position, you have more strength.
And I find myself doing that sometimes in practice where I'm trying to go for a pin and I find myself out here and I just tighten up like that, and now I go and I'm so much stronger as soon as I pull my hip close to my elbow. The cue that we teach people, or that we normally note, is I imagine a string from my elbow to my belly button and from my knuckle to my forehead. But this active feedback, as you call it, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of different ways you can do that. I'm sure there's techniques for teaching people to use a bat or shoot a basketball, or we used to do it in powerlifting, where you create some sort of feedback to let you know where you're at with your form.
Exactly. Right? It's teaching you how to position yourself. Right. So we've got that lacrosse ball in there. So if you If your arm dips away, you lose the lat, the ball drops. So that's your feedback. And then you can also do it the same thing with the elbow, right? So you can get that ball in tight to the elbow here, and now you're forced to keep your hand close to your body. And now my lat is engaged and my back, bicep, everything's tight. So when I go for the pin, nothing is opening up.
And that is again, this is for beginners and a great way to teach new people, new arm wrestlers, how to hold that nice, correct form and slowly work them to moving to a pin. Because same thing, like if my tendency is to do this when I go to pin, well, that's a perfect one for this, right? Like, no, don't. As soon as you do that, you're going to lose that lacrosse ball. So now, if that's my tendency, just by forcing me to hold that lacrosse ball into my bicep, I'm going to stop doing this stuff, right? Which is another one that new arm wrestlers right away, they have this tendency to want to move their arm, and we have to teach them, no, you want to keep this part of your body static and move your body, and by initiating these two cues, it just forces you to do that perfectly.
Yeah, so that's a really great tip that we learned from one of the best arm wrestlers of all time. So really helpful tip. Thank you, Earl Wilson. Any new arm wrestlers, definitely try this out. And people who own a club and get new arm wrestlers coming in, this is a good tip you can use to help speed up the process of their learning. Yeah,
try it out yourself if you are an arm wrestler, and you'll immediately feel like, holy shit, yeah, that forces me to be perfect, exactly like textbook on how I want to pull.
Yeah.
And then teach it to new guys. And thanks, Earl. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things.
And monkeys out.
Peace.